Hello, everybody. It is another episode of A Piece of Molly's Mind. Thank you for joining me. I am your host, Molly Gebler, and as promised, we have a Christmas tree. It's a tinsel tree, but it's a Christmas tree. And there would be lights if I had batteries at my house, but I never have batteries. Does anyone really ever have batteries at their house? I don't. So that's why it's not lit. I will get batteries, so by next episode, it'll be lit. I'm telling you, I just finished an interview with a guest. Oh my gosh. You guys, I hope you're watching. I hope you're subscribing and liking and following because the guests are they're top notch. I'm just so excited. I hope you enjoyed the John Rinaldi, Little John interview as much as I did. He's a legend, Cleveland legend, I tell you. So I hope you enjoyed watching that show. I am not doing another coffee mug war because, to be honest with you, no one's responding. Actually, I take that back. Jessica Deviljack said I should keep my Christmas mug. So these are the two right now. And unfortunately, the one person that responded said keep it. So I think I'm going to go with my idea that somebody had the coffee mug exchange thing. I think I'm going to go with that. I'm going to build it. And that's coming. It was a great week. Baby girl Gebler was home, and I just love that so much. She was home for a week, which just filled my bucket so much. And we had Thanksgiving, which was incredible. My sister just literally blows it out of the park every time she hosts anything at her beautiful home. This time she surprised us with she did the basement, the Tipsy Elf, I believe, is what she called the bar. And we enjoyed ourselves. It was decked out to the point where there was a light in the toilet. Only my sister. But it was so much fun. It's just always fun to be with my family. I love them so much. It's so fun when we all get together. So Thanksgiving, typically, and I think I talked about this in the last episode, but typically what we do on Thanksgiving is we dress up. And this Thanksgiving, I don't know, we just couldn't get a theme together. Some people wanted, I don't know, we just couldn't get it together. So at the last second, actually during the prep day, we have prep day. I think I talked about that the last episode where we prep everything on Wednesday and then we eat on Thursday. Basically, we take Thanksgiving and we break it up into 2 days. But it's a lot of fun, and we hang on, and then we spend the night at my sister's, and it's just lovely. We decided, my nephew, Ethan, who was home from medical school, he was rocking his new DJ set. And when I mean rocking, like he was 100% all in. On this DJ set. We were having so much fun. I kind of turned it into a karaoke moment, but so much fun. And he was trying to learn how to merge the songs together, and then we were all just throwing different songs. Oh, you should merge this song together. It was a lot of fun. So we're jamming on the not karaoke, but the DJ. Dr. DJ, I think we called him. I can't remember what his official name was. So we decided that we were each going to select a walkout song. So when we just time to go in the dining room for dinner, we would each enter with a song. Everybody text Ethan your walkout song. And here's the clip of everybody walking in for Thanksgiving. It was a lot of fun. Roll the clip.
Dad. Get it, Dad. Oh, shit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there you go. K-pop Demon Hunter. Yeah.
We ate a lot. We saw the lighting of the big tree in downtown Chagrin Falls, which is always such a lovely time. And it was snowing and cold. It was like the perfect atmosphere and weather for the Christmas tree lighting. Just huge shout out to the JCs. They do just such an amazing job lighting up the village. Shout out to all the merchants in town. The windows look unbelievable. So make sure that you vote for your favorite window if you're downtown in Chagrin Falls, or I'll put the link up here. You can just go there and vote for your favorite window, like my window at the hardware store. So make sure you vote for that every day. You can vote every day. So make sure you vote for the hardware store, my Candyland. I'm going to show the video right here. Again, it's amazing. So make sure you vote for that. And then we spent a couple days decorating the Christmas room at the inn where I work. It just takes a life of its own. I had so much fun. So much fun. Here's a little video clip of literally every corner has something. Lots of projectors this year. It just really truly is magical. I think there's only 2 more days left of that I have available to stay, but book for next year because it's already ready to book. And next year we're going to have a frosty room and the Christmas room. That's actually breaking news, FYI, because we haven't announced that yet. We also, just because my work merges with my personal life, because I get super involved and super obsessed with it, we are hosting themed rooms this year. January, February, March are themed rooms, and I gotta tell you, so it's wickedly popular is January. Then it is a Rosebud Motel inspired theme, because I don't want to get sued, so I got to keep them all kind of, I can't say the words. And then an Era's room, and I'm obsessed with them. They're going to be incredible. Book it now because they're gonna sell out. It's gonna be like so incredible and so amazing. I do need to mention for this episode, there is very sensitive subject. So if you are in your car listening to it on the radio, or just make sure there's no kids around, because there's some real sensitive subjects in this upcoming episode. So make sure that you, oh boy, I just kicked my camera. How about that? Make sure that you keep liking, following, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Tell your friends, everything. Help my audience grow. That's all I ask right now. And it is the kickoff for the holiday season. So I hope that everybody is enjoying it and you're getting your holiday Christmas shopping done. I have not even started yet, so I will eventually start working on that. But enjoy the episode. And again, sensitive subject, so make sure, but great interview. Also, it comes with we're launching it today on Giving Tuesday, because my guest has a wonderful cause that I hope all the viewers will support on this Giving Tuesday, support her nonprofit. All right, well, it's time for the show. Enjoy it. Hey, everybody, it's another episode, A Piece of Molly's Mind. And today's guest is Courtney Stasko. And there are times when people just come into your life, then they go away, and then they come back into your life. And that's exactly what happened with Courtney and myself. Courtney and I worked together briefly, but we had multiple meetings at the Inn of Chagrin. And I think that we have seen each other at events at the school, and her daughter goes to school with my littles. We ran into each other just recently where I was lucky enough to be invited to the school to read one of my books to the kids, which was very, very exciting. And you were volunteering, yes?
Yes.
Then Courtney, we just got to striking up a conversation, and she mentioned that she also has written a book. And then we went and had coffee, and her story blew me away on strength and forgiveness and not being a victim to your circumstances and making the most out of something that could literally shut a person down. And we are going to talk all about what the heck I'm talking about. So, welcome, Courtney, to A Piece of Molly's Mind.
Oh gosh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We're excited to have a platform to share your story. So, tell me a little bit about you. You have a lovely daughter who is in first grade.
Mhm.
Tell us about her.
Yeah, so I have my one and only daughter who's Hope. She is 7 in first grade, and she's pretty much my life. I became a single parent when she was 9 months old, and I am a scientist by trade and have worked a tremendous amount in that field and supply chain. But with our story and what we've been through, we've kind of started down a mission of healing, and everything is really centered around providing answers to a curious mind of a 7-year-old. And as she's growing, we're kind of keeping that open dialogue so we could have very open and honest conversations. And I'm very excited to create that space for her and to have her process some things that are a little bit more difficult to process. And it helps me in turn as well.
And which we will get into, the understanding probably changes as she grows. I mean, there's always going to be a little different understanding of the circumstances as she grows, and we'll get into it. But not only are you a single mother, but you're in that sandwich generation as well. You're taking care of your dad, who
Mhm.
just moved in with you recently, right?
Yep. We are for sure that sandwich generation. So my dad is 75. He's a Vietnam vet and he's pretty capable. But he needed to move in with us because he needed to get out of isolation. And there is some things going on with him health-wise. And we just wanted to get ahead of it to make sure that we were all situated. So yeah, I get to take care of my dad and my daughter all at the same time. And when they're together, I often say it's the blind leading the deaf. It doesn't matter which one is which. And they just lead each other and somehow make it through. And
Yeah.
it's pretty funny to watch.
I will. You and I talked about you just went through some construction so that he could be some mobility issues and he could be comfortable in the house. And talk a little bit about you came up, or actually he did, with a very clever thing, thinking about you and your future after he's gone. Tell me a little bit about that decision in the construction process.
Yeah. So, it's an interesting conversation when you talk about what life looks like when someone's not here, but it's also a very realistic conversation. And, with things that happen in our recent lives, I think we've gotten more comfortable around that subject. And so my dad moved in with us May of 2024, and construction on our house started March of this year, and it finished in August. And when we were looking at the house, we renovated it, but we also did an addition for an in-law suite. And right now it's connected to the house. It has its separate entrance and a separate back door. However, it's designed to where if he was no longer here and we didn't want to utilize that space, we could easily construct a wall up and make it its separate apartment. And his thought, this was all on his own because he was thinking of how he still could provide to us in the day that he's no longer here, which we hope is far, far in the future. But it would be an apartment that we could rent out if I choose to do that. And so it was framed that way to make it very affordable in the future.
I mean, how cool is that to have that thought and just to be thinking of you even after he's gone? That's just so cool and so special. I mean,
Mhm.
not everybody has that opportunity. So he was in Vietnam, which I know I have an uncle who was in Vietnam. We did not discuss it with him at all. Is that how your growing up was with him?
Yeah, it was very much not a conversation that we were allowed to have. And I remember I was learning about it in school and I came home. I knew he was in it. I knew he was in the army, and that was about the extent that I knew. And I was learning about it in school, and I was very proud to come and share some of the stuff that I learned, only for it to get shut down very quickly and be told that that is not something we talk about. He has since very much changed his point of view on that. Probably not as much as I like to brag about it, but he has very much come around to accepting and being acknowledged. And he loves being welcomed home because when he came home, it was not the environment of welcoming. And so when he gets the message, "Welcome home, brother," that means a lot to him. And it's very exciting to watch him accept these awards and this conversation and being honored because he deserves it. And a lot of his pain that he had that I've seen my whole life was generated from that war. And it's very nice to see him embrace it now and start talking about it.
And that is a large part to you,
Mhm.
and something that you went through. So you married, what was your husband's name?
Yeah, his name was Todd Michael Stasko,
Yeah,
and he was a veteran of the U.S. Air Force. So he was an airman in the United States Air Force.
yeah. You guys married how long ago?
We got married in 2016. We met in 2012. And so we were together for about a decade between dating, engagement, and marriage altogether.
And he was not in the military when you guys met and dated, right?
Correct. He was outside. He just got out not too long after his service is when we met.
Did he, the I think the reason, at least from my knowledge, from my uncle, that the Vietnam veterans did not discuss or want to discuss is there was a huge guilt. There was a lot of things that went on that they just wished not to discuss or talk about. And it also came in a generation where you kind of suppressed anything as well. You know, in addition to not wanting to talk about it, you were told you don't talk about it. Not just war or anything like that, but just in general, I think I was on the end of that type of, we were definitely raised that you don't share or talk about your feelings. You pull your pants, your big girl boots up, um, suck it up. Those are all the things that we were told and raised. And do you feel that with your husband, was he more likely to discuss his time, or because he was in actual combat, correct?
hmm Yeah, he was stationed in Korea and Japan after his initial boot camp. He had a couple times over there, and then yeah, he was in the post 9/11 war in the Persian Gulf, and he would talk about it. He was proud to have served his country, but he was very disappointed. And when we kind of get into that a little bit, he was just very disappointed in how things were handled on the back end of it. And so he had a big disconnect between himself and, the Veterans Association and things of that nature. And he would be proud and say that he was in the Air Force, but that was about the extent of it. He had a lot of feelings that went behind it, and he didn't talk too much about that. He self-coped into different mechanisms, and that
Talk a little bit
yeah,
about that.
yeah. So he, you know, he would cope in different ways that were not healthy. And so he started to use alcohol, and there was drug usage as well. But the alcohol seemed to be the biggest one that was the culprit. And when he would go on some deep depression, or he had a lot of traumatic stress that just never really was healed. And so when he was in a post-traumatic stress situation, or going through some of those motions, he would cope with alcohol, which only would kind of keep that cycle going in a very vicious, darker way. And every time I would recommend, like, to get help or to go to the VA or do something like that, he was very closed off as to why. And he would never take that recommendation. He took personal offense if you were like, you need help. He just didn't want to hear necessarily that, because I think the proud person he was, he didn't want to accept that he needed help. And I think that is a struggle that some of these men and women could have, just because it's one of those situations where they're proud people to serve their country, and it's hard to accept that you may be a little in over your head with some of the stuff that you went through.
Plus, they beat you down for their reasons to create this soldier who will defend our country, which is a huge commitment. And they don't, it wouldn't be strong of them to admit that they would need help, because they now are this big strong soldier who is protecting our country. How
Yep.
could somebody like that then need help with their emotions, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and emotions aren't something that they really talk about when they're building a soldier. And they do a tremendous amount of work to build up a soldier, but then on the back end uh, re to reestablish someone back into civilianness, or the civilian society, there's not nearly as much time involved. And I think they're making slight improvements, but when you go back 2 decades now, when Todd got out, there was not a lot of reestablishment back into being an effective citizen of the society. And his story comes with a tremendous amount of depression. And I found out after he died that the reason why he was discharged from the military is because he attempted to kill himself. And so granted, there was mistakes made. I'm not excusing those. He didn't show up for duty, and there was a lot of behavioral issues occurring when you got down to the straw that kind of finally broke the camel's back. It was he accidentally or intentionally overdosed. And thankfully he was saved. And in his message, when he went to go through his trial, his message was like, I have a problem, I need help, please help me. And they said, sorry, that's not our problem, you've messed up too many times, and they just let him go. And so this man came back just attempting to kill himself, and he came back homeless essentially, and he came back to a society that he felt he didn't fit in. And it was one of those situations where it's like, what do you do with that? And so he started to cope in very unhealthy ways with that.
So what were you seeing? Yeah, you fell in love with him. What were you seeing at that time? And then how did it start escalating?
When we first met and I started talking to him and we got to know each other, I saw someone who needed some type of structure, but also a very charismatic, very honest person. And he was a charmer. And so the drug usage or the alcohol usage wasn't something that was really exposed, and we were in our 20s. So it was kind of like socially acceptable to go out and drink and
Right.
have a couple, like it just wasn't one of those things that I really processed that there was an addiction piece. It wasn't until we were together for just over a year and I had an opportunity to move down to Columbus from the Akron area for a job. And we made the decision to do that together. And so he left his job and he moved down to support my career. It was an opportunity I really couldn't say no to. And when I started traveling a lot for that opportunity, that's when I think a lot of the signs started to present itself that there was some type of dependency. And at that point, I was already in love, and I was already at this point where we could fix this. We could work through this, or you could. This isn't a huge addiction, and maybe I was in denial, I was ignorant, whatever it be. But it was after we got engaged, and we went to move again. I found suitcases full of different things, whether it was empty liquor bottles or empty duster bottles or empty of this. And that is when it became very apparent that there is a bigger issue on our hands and we need to do something about this. And that's where the lot of the back and forth of we need help. And he just was refusing to seek the help. That was probably about like 5 or 6 years into our relationship at that point.
And did hope bring some sort of pause on it, maybe?
There were always ups and downs. There were always times where it wasn't present in our life, and he would, be clean for a while, whether it was a month here or 3 months there, and then it would just kind of come back in. I would say when I got pregnant with Hope, there was more of a dependency. It became more of a dependency after that point. And I think it was every time we made a step to reestablish our lives or to move forward in our path, that pressure compounded him even more. And we thought it was like it was doing the opposite of what we would have wanted it to do. It was like, okay, we're now married and you now got he had his bachelor's of science in IT and he was working this beautiful job and he was having a baby on the way and it was all these things that should have brought a lot of joy just created a lot more stress for him, which triggered a lot more trauma responses with him, and then that processed into more alcohol usage.
Were you seeing military interruptions? Like, was he going back there in his mind, or did you see any of that in his behaviors?
There were definitely times where that post-traumatic stress snap was there. And usually I will say it came when he was dependent on some type of something, whether it be alcohol. Mostly it was alcohol. So like it was just one of those situations where if he was completely intoxicated, he would immediately go into like tactile soldier mode. And it's like you are not there anymore. Like what is going on? And if you've ever been with someone who has had PTS or has had some type of manic episode, when they're in that phase, their eyes are completely disconnected from their soul. And you see it, their eyes are dilated, they're bigger, and you just really see this blank stare at you. And that is and he would clench his fist up a lot and stand very proper, like he was in, stance. And it was just, you would definitely see these flashback actions come into play. And there were times too where he would wake up out of sleep in deep sweats and be crying for no reason. And you're just like, what is going on? And it was hard at that point to get some understanding of how deep this was. But there was a lot of pain that wasn't healed with him.
Mhm. So let's talk about that night. You're home, Hope's home. How old is Hope at the time?
Yeah, so it was May 29th of 2019. And so Hope was just a little over 9 months old. And I was at work. I was working in Cleveland and we lived outside of Akron. And so I had a commute. So my days were long. They were about 12-hour days. I got this weird message from him around like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it flagged to me something was wrong. I didn't know what was going on, but I just knew he was frustrated. he was a stay-at-home dad and he was also working full-time remotely. And so there was just a lot of stress on him. He didn't have to do that, but that was what he kept choosing to do. And so I couldn't, unfortunately, leave work any early that day. And so I came home. I got home around 5:30 or 6 o'clock that night. And our typical routine was I would get home, I would engage with Hope because I was away from her all day. He would kind of get some relief and get to do some things. And I would feed Hope and I would bathe her and then I would get her ready for bed. And so that part all was pretty normal. As far as mine and Hope's routine, Todd at that point exited the house and he went into the garage. And it was about time for Hope to go to bed. And I asked him if he wanted to say goodnight to Hope. And so he said yes. And he came in and said goodnight to her and did his little routine with her for that. And then I took her.
Nothing sparking to you that he was off other than that text.
No, he was off. He was at this point, I didn't know what was going on, but he was definitely off. And then between the time he went into the garage and the time he came to say goodnight to Hope, he got intolerably drunk at that point. Like when he came in to say goodnight to Hope, he was pretty incoherent at that time. And I said, "Oh." But like I was like, let me just get my baby to bed. And so I got Hope to sleep and I kind of prepared myself because this isn't the first time this has happened. He was pretty good about not doing this around Hope, but there were times where it did cross over. And this happened to be one of those nights. And I kind of mentally tried to gather myself because I just didn't know what I was really walking into. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know if he was mad at me. I didn't know if he was mad at the world or if he was just sad at himself. And so I went downstairs and went into the garage with him. And I was trying to just have a conversation with him. And what I could find is that no matter what I would say, he was just trying to entice an argument. And he was very upset with me over things that weren't even things that happened. And we just started, I was usually calm and collective, and I knew that was not the time to state any of my piece or defend myself. So I just kind of let him vent. It wasn't uncommon for our relationship to come with some verbal abuse. It wasn't uncommon for my relationship to come with domestic violence. It wasn't frequent. It wasn't that it happened all of the time, but it did happen. It's part of our story. And, it's part of my story of why it's important to talk about this is because this is real life for a lot of people. And there's a lot of judgment when we stay with the people who might not be best for us, but there's also a lot of love for these people. And when you get into these situations where there's a lot more to unpack and a lot of their trauma is because of their service, you're trying to help them along the way. And it doesn't make it right. It just is what it is. And so he became very vocal, very verbally abusive that night towards me. And I told him that I just didn't have the energy to keep doing this. And so I decided that it was time for me to exit because I didn't want this to blow up even more. And so it was time for me to exit the garage. And my goal was just to get upstairs so I could go to bed and hopefully wake up to a more human person tomorrow and we could have a better conversation. And so I came inside, um, and he ran behind me very abruptly and pushed me against the wall when he came in. And I went into the kitchen and he ran upstairs and I heard him open our gun safe. And I was like, oh, this is not good. At this point, I don't know what to do because I know if I move wrong, I say something wrong, I act abruptly, it could lead to something crazy. And so I'm just trying to stay calm. And he comes downstairs. I'm pretty sure he launched down the steps. I don't think he walked. I think he literally just jumped down the whole entire stairs. And I have my head down, and I'm at this point crying and just a little confused and scared. And I had my head down kind of in my hands like this, and I have a gun come up to he holds a gun like point blank into my head. And at this point, he demands me to look up at him. And so I look up at him and he asks me if I have any last words.
Oh my God.
And I don't answer because I don't know what to say. And so I just start praying and I just say, please take care of Hope. That is all I care about at this point. I have nothing but her, and that is all I just want her to be safe. And so I just keep saying, please take care of Hope. And I'm not saying this out loud, I'm just saying this inside. Me not answering only aggravated him even more. And so he pushed the gun harder into my head and he said a very vulgar, any last words. And I said no. But this whole time I'm still saying, please take care of Hope, please take care of Hope, please take care of Hope. It's the
You
only
talked
thing that
about that manic state
Mhm.
and the eyes. Is that where what you're seeing at this point? Like he's just not even himself.
That's not my husband. That I know that sounds really weird, but that's not the man I married. That's not the man I fell in love with. His eyes were dark. Um, he was very manic at this point, very incoherent as well. And he barely could even stand, right? Like he was kind of wobbling. And that wasn't my husband. And he asked me again if I had any last words, and I said no. And I closed my eyes and tears fall down. I remember opening my eye and a tear like literally ricocheted in slow motion off of the counter. And because I'm just looking down at this point. And the next thing I know, the gun comes off of my head and I look up with just enough time to see him put the gun in his mouth and shoot himself. And there was this point in that moment. This was all very fast, right? This was all within seconds from the time we came into the garage until that point. But there was a moment that right before he killed himself, that he looked at me in this look of, I am sorry. And my husband came right back. And it was very split second. Um, and before I could even shout his name or respond or react, that moment happened. And he collapsed over our daughter's high chair where I just fed her like about 30 or 45 minutes ago. Um, and the first thing I did was call 911. I had an interesting conversation about this with someone who was in a very similar situation. Again, a veteran wife, and her husband kind of did something very similar. And her response was to immediately try to help him. And my response was to immediately call 911 because this is a crime scene. I couldn't get the words out with 911. They're like agitated at this point. What's your emergency? They think I'm like, don't have one, but I'm like, I'm just shouting and no words are like really coming out of my mouth. And finally, I was able to stomach enough to at least get them here. And then the first responders who arrived noticed that there was still a heartbeat and they did everything they could to try and save my husband. They asked me to go and get Hope up and take her outside. And so I did that. And I don't know, about 15 or 20 minutes went by. And then the officer came out and told me that they just couldn't save him. And he took my daughter from my hands as I kind of collapsed on my front porch and processed that moment.
Did you feel he was already gone when you called 911?
Yeah, I knew he wasn't coming back. Just based off of the kind of bullets I knew he had and how he shot himself and everything like that, that there was no saving him. And so I knew that was going to be that outcome. Um, but still when you hear it and it's solidified, it's a different feeling.
Ooh,
Mhm.
thank you for sharing. How do you possibly have the strength to take that episode in your life, which you visually probably see all the time? It's not like you can erase it, and make something good, which is what we're going to talk about. Do you have a frequent flyer card therapy? Do you do therapy? Like how are you not bitter, mad, and angry? And how are you sitting here talking about it?
Oh, it's a good question. And it's not to say I've always been sitting here able to talk about it, right? There are the processes of grief and they are not linear. But time does help process. It doesn't fix it, it doesn't heal it, but it does help process. And I do have an amazing therapist. Her name is Sally, and she is just phenomenal. And ironically, I met Sally about a month before Todd died, knowing that it was spiraling very badly and he wouldn't get help. And so I was kind of forced. My best friend said, "You need help." And so she forced me to go see Sally. And I didn't want to be there. I didn't have a lot to say to Sally. But when he died, Sally found out very quickly and reached out to me. And she has been a lifeline for me for the past 6 years. She's helped me a lot on the processing side of it. The first year was bitterness, it was anger, it was deep depression, it was my own suicidal thoughts. I was not suicidal prior to this moment, but you hit it dead on. That image does not go away. And the first several months were traumatizing with it. Like it is full on in your face and you can't escape it. You're trying to run away from it and you just can't escape it. And I just was so tired I couldn't sleep. I couldn't function and I just wanted this vision to go away and I got desperate and I did have my own moment where I did almost attempt to kill myself and Hope her baby monitor went off. And that was my turning point. That was my day. It was about 6 weeks after Todd died and I was sitting in my garage, my dad's garage because I moved in with him. Um, and I was desperate to just escape this. And I wrote a note to my family and I said, "I'm sorry." That is all it said. And I was made make my peace, and Hope's baby monitor went off, and I got pulled right back to mom. And I went into her room sobbing, and I held her that whole entire night. And I said, "You need one parent to stay." And I committed to her that night. She was 10 months old, and I will stay for you. I will stay for you. And that is really what turned this whole thing around. And it was work. And it wasn't until about 2 years ago where I linked up with Scott Mann, who is a lieutenant colonel retired from the U.S. Army Green Beret. And he teaches a lot about storytelling and the power of storytelling and how it is generous to share your scars and that you really should not be ashamed of your story. And I had a hard time processing that because my story comes with things that are shameful. There's all of it, right? You were in a domestic violence situation, you stayed, you're a smart person. Why would you stay there? There was alcohol involved, then you brought a kid into it, and there were all these things that society likes to judge you on. And I was told that it's not shameful, it is actually generous because when you share this, you may help someone else.
And
And that is, yeah.
when you say storytelling, I want to make sure that the viewers understand, because we are going to get into
Mm,
your book. You're not talking writing a book storytelling. You're
mm.
talking share your journey, your story, and sharing that is what you mean by storytelling.
Absolutely. It's not fictional. It is true sharing of what you have went through. And it is, you could tell so many, everyone's been through so much. So you could tell so many different stories, but it is your story and it is what you have went through. And yes, It's saying it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to take what is locked inside. The night Todd died, I shared that in therapy, like right after, but then I never shared it out ever again up until earlier this year.
Feel that each time you share it, you gain a little bit of strength or a little bit of
I
yourself back.
It is. It's reclaiming. It's like you are no longer going to be you're no longer going to suffer because of this image. You are going to reclaim this and make it your turning point in your story. And that is very healing, very, very healing.
So, there are people who would have what happened to them and they deal with it and they go on. You, on the other hand, you've created a mission, and it came with your daughter kind of asking you. She's getting older. She's six or seven
Yep.
now,
Yep.
and she's starting to wonder. She's always known she's had a dad. I'm assuming that, that story, the love that you had for him continues. You didn't taint it with his finals behavior. And she's asking kind of, where is he? Where is he now? And you decided to write a book that could help individuals like you share with a young child about a death of a parent. Share with me and our viewers what made you so passionate about I need to do, and not only that, but take it one step further and make it a nonprofit, and now you're doing some great things. And so what made you turn out to have some good out of this?
It's going to sound so cliche, but it's just the power of hope. If I get down to one simple answer, it's just for hope and the power of hope. And her name was chosen for something totally different, but it all falls down to hope. And I grasped onto her figuratively and metaphorically and literally. And so about a year ago, she woke me up and tapped me on the shoulder, and she asked me how her daddy died. And she was looking for a more direct answer than what she was getting. And it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, oh boy, I'm not ready for this. And so I reached out to my network, which wasn't that big in this community of veterans and military. It wasn't that big at that time. It's gotten a lot bigger since then. And so I started reaching out, and nobody has went through what I went through, at least in the network I had. And there were people who had a lot bigger network than me that I was connected to. I reached out to them, and they're like, sorry, we don't know anyone. And so then they linked me to someone who might, and then it was just kind of this strikeout after strikeout after strikeout. And I went to a storytelling workshop that I was talking about earlier, and I told my story about the night Todd died, and it unleashed this creativity in me that I didn't know I really had. And I came home from that week, and I said, how can I explain depression to a 6-year-old? And that was the question I sought to answer, was how do I explain depression? And I thought of a basic light dark concept, because that is what it's always referred to. It's something that she could comprehend. She's learning about space. She likes rainbows. She is full of butterflies. And how can I push this all together? And I created Starry, who's this little girl who seeks to find her daddy's light. And as I'm writing this book, or I wrote the book very quickly. It was like an hour, kind of just zoned out and wrote it. I found an illustrator, and as she was pulling my words to life, I'm like, this could help other people. This could be bigger than just Hope and I. And if I'm looking for this, has to be other people looking for this. I just haven't found them yet. And so around April is when I decided to take it one step bigger. So the original goal was just to write a book for my daughter. That was all I wanted to accomplish. not sell it. Just I did want to print it, but I just wanted to write it to her so she could have a story that shows her about depression and starts that conversation. And then in April, I decided that it could help other people. And then that is where Starry is Hope was founded because little Starry is Hope, who goes on a mission to find her daddy's light. And so we were founded in May 29th of 2009 or 2025, which was 6 years to date from the night Todd died. And that was not because I decided to do something on May 29th. That is when the state of Ohio accepted our articles of incorporation.
You actually got the article, and it was dated on the same day that your husband killed himself years
Yep.
previous.
Yep.
That's
It
crazy.
is so cool. Like anyone who's experienced death knows those death anniversary dates are very difficult. And I got that notice. It was like when I checked my email, it was like 7:30 at night and I just cried, but it was like happy tears. And I can now talk about that date that I hate so much with a lot of pride. And it is full circle. And that's when I knew that this is meant to be.
Has Hope been able to be involved in anything about the book?
Oh yes, she was like my little creative designer. She helped me with the color palette and how Starry's hair was and how it flowed. And you'll notice like there's a lot of stars in the book, and that's direct. There's a lot of directness in the book. But a lot of times families who lose loved ones, whether it's military or first responders to suicide, they're referenced as white star families. And so Hope's idea was to put little stars in Starry's ears. And she was very much involved on the creativity side of it. And she would give me ideas to spit back to the illustrator. And she knew the characters that were involved. And um, she was just with this as excited as I was throughout the whole process. It was very, very cool to be a part of.
So in the book, which I have read, it is beautiful, beautifully written. The illustration is really grabs you for sure. Did Hope lose her grandma and her dog?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this book is based off of true events for the most
Okay.
part. My mom, Hope's Grammy, passed away before Hope was born. So she passed away in 2017. And that year, she passed away in April. And then that December, right around Christmas, is when we found out I was pregnant with Hope. And so we named Hope in honor of my mom or memory of my mom. And she was born in 2018, and then Todd died in 2019, and then her dog, his name was Shady, but we changed it to Sparkles because I felt like Sparkles was a little bit more kid appropriate. He passed away like in 2021, but that was her buddy, and
Yeah.
they had a special bond, and she talks about him all the time still, even though we have other dogs and whatnot.
Oh, and so the launch of Courtney's episode was very strategic because today is Giving Tuesday, and you're doing you started the nonprofit called Starry is Hope. The mission is,
It's really just taking grief and it's turning it into connection.
yeah,
Because the power of connection is something that is very beautiful. And I think COVID has created COVID, you could look at through COVID, and my grief was hard during COVID because it was like fresh. And so then it became even more isolated and I got disconnected, and social media only impounds that. And so it's taking grief and it's turning it into connection. It's giving a place for families like Hope and I, not just one person, but the family. How can we heal together? How can we share our stories together? And giving a platform of connection, not just for the moms, but for the children.
Mhm.
Hope goes to school, the demographic Hope goes to school with, and in her school, I would bet that there's not one person who really has a story like her.
Mhm.
However, there are thousands of them out there
Right.
in our country, and how can we connect them together and share these stories and have these conversations?
And it's already helped your dad through watching you, and you shared with me that he is more accepting of the conversation about his past. And
Mhm.
has he gotten help other than
Yeah.
just talking with you?
Yes, he has. He has started to go see a mental health specialist through the VA.
It's amazing.
And I just could not be more proud of him. I mean, mental health is very near and dear to me for my own personal reasons now, and
Yeah.
not just from people I love, but my own because it's been life-saving for me. And it's like talk about it, find someone to connect to, and share it out. And so seeing him, oh gosh, take something that he used to not be able to talk about and just explore it at the age of 75. It's never too late.
Amazing.
It's just
That's
a beautiful
amazing.
thing. Mhm.
So you are doing a super cool, not only are you launching your book, you are doing a Kickstart campaign because you want to be able to give the book for free. And can I just tell you that whatever is shining, whoever or whatever is shining on you, we welcome them to the podcast as well, because you are definitely being visited right now by somebody. Um,
Yeah.
and it is super cool. Um, so you're doing a Kickstart campaign to raise money so that you can give this book out to those people who have been affected, children that have been affected by a military suicide in their family. Tell us a little bit about that. And it's Giving Tuesday, folks. So we're definitely going to put this link everywhere in hopes that the A Piece of Molly's Mind viewers can support Courtney on this mission. So tell us what the goal is for your campaign.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much. I was trying to adjust my lighting and I'm like, it's not working. So,
There's no need. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
okay, good. But yeah, so we are finally going live with our nonprofit and our Kickstart on Giving Tuesday. And our goal is to raise enough funds to donate the book to 529 families, because that day is so impactful for us. And it became a full circle moment. And so the board of directors was like 529. And I said, absolutely, that is the number. And so we're raising enough funds to donate this book to those families. And it's not just ones from military, it's also first responder, because, we have a lot of us, and this book could help heal a lot of people through the conversation. And that's our first goal. And we have a reach goal that if we raise more funds than just what the book is, then they'll get a company plushies to go with it and things to help that grief from a child's point of view and a family's point of view.
And then what if one of my viewers are listening who has gone through something like this and they want to be one of the 529 to
Yes.
receive the book? How will they get a hold of you?
Yes, that is the biggest question. Because for me, that is why I'm delaying launching my book, is I
Got to
want to
find
give it.
529
That's right.
people. Yeah.
So, our website will have they will have a section deliberately for you to go into to fill out contact information, or you could just email me at Courtney@starryishope.org. Either way, we'll get your information and we'll send you a form for you to fill out to get into our collection of families to do the first round in our first mission for.
What is the driving force? Why do you just keep going?
Healing.
Yeah.
Uh, it's been a, you know, it's been a life I never envisioned. It's been a place I never thought I would be. But it's a life beyond a dream, right? And it's taking me in directions that I'm being called to do, and I'm just following it. And it has been so incredibly healing, and it's creating me to be a better person, a better parent, and it's guiding me to help Hope and to be there for Hope. And I want Hope to, have the best life she can have. And statistically speaking, there's a lot of things against her when you come. I'm a scientist, so I will look at the data. And there's a lot of stats against her, whether it's addiction, it's mental health herself, It's all these different things. And I just want to give her the best and biggest toolbox I can so she could hopefully have just a life that she's able to handle and cope throughout all of it.
Will the truth be told to her? Have you decided or thought about that?
hmm So we talk about suicide. It is a term that I don't shield from her. And she doesn't quite know that her dad died from the word suicide because she hasn't deliberately asked.
Mhm.
If she were to come to me today and said, Mommy, did daddy die by suicide? My answer is yes. And then if she has more questions past that, I'm not necessarily going to answer. Just think about like if someone were to die in a car accident, you don't necessarily go into the gory details. You
Sure.
just say they died in a car accident. And so
Right.
it's going to be treated that way. I've gotten guidance from the experts in this and asked them how to handle this. And the truth is, we got to talk about it though. And it's okay to talk about the word suicide, and it's okay to share that someone died by suicide. And so yes, that part will for sure be there. The full story will come out to her as she gets age appropriate, and whatever she wants, she could learn. And so the vision of all of this is that there's going to be a story of a rendition of Starry's journey that comes out as she ages. So the development piece will be, right now it's a 6 to 8 year old's kind of mind, and then it will be 8 to 10, 10 to 13, and then high school version. And it's just going to grow with her. And that's
She can
just,
write her own when
yeah, she
she's
could,
18.
yep, and hopefully share her own story and what that looks like and help. There's a lot of kids growing up in this situation, unfortunately, and we got to get them to talk about it and be comfortable with it.
This has been amazing.
Mm.
What do you see in 10 years? What is Courtney and Hope's life look like?
My number one goal is undeniable peace. And I have been really getting there. And so in 10 years, I would like to say I have all these dreams and visions of what that looks like. But all I want is undeniable peace. And I want that for Hope too. And I know that's going to be harder probably for her as she's going through adolescence and learning how to be a person in the world. But I want us to be living a life of peace. And I will do everything to protect that and to get there.
So, first of all, thank you for sharing your story. It can't be easy. Your strength alone is, I think, could change somebody's life. That if she could go through this and be strong, and I'm sure that all days aren't full of strength. That's why you want the peace. I can't say enough of gratitude for you sharing your story because, like you said, through conversation, you could be saving someone else's life. So thank you for being strong. And again, I said at the beginning, not being a victim, to truly take something so awful and make good of it is just so amazing. So typically I end my episodes with some rapid fire questions. I want to see, is that okay with you to pivot into just some silly kind of light, quick
Yes,
questions?
I
Okay,
would appreciate that. It will give me a little bit better
perfect.
to
Bring it
to
back.
handle Hope coming home in a little
Yes,
bit.
yes. All right. Coffee or tea to start your day?
Coffee with lots of cream,
With lots of cream. What is your comfort snack?
potato chips,
What kind?
Doritos.
All right. So is that Frito-Lay?
Yeah, that is
Okay,
Frito-Lay.
Frito-Lay, if you'd like to sponsor a piece of Molly's mind, I always try to ask for a sponsor every episode. Frito-Lay, we would love to have you as a sponsor or just send us some free samples of some Doritos. A beach vacation or a cozy cabin in the woods.
Oh, beach all day.
What's a song that you cannot help get up and just rock it out?
Anything by Fish, a
Okay,
jam band. Yep, any
that's
of them.
okay. Do you go to their, because I know they're a very groupy culty. People follow them. Do you go to their concerts?
I do. I've had a tremendous amount of fun at every one I've been to. I actually saw the Trey Anastasio band last night, which is his spin-off. It's called Tab. And so that's the lead singer, and they were in Akron Civic Center last night. And so, oh, it
Okay.
was so much fun.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it's a
gosh.
lot of fun.
I am obsessed with Youngblood.
Oh, yes.
And every episode, I ask Youngblood to be on my podcast. So, Youngblood, I would love for you to be on my podcast. And I have tickets to go see him in May, and I'm
Mm.
super excited. And I'm grateful because I was going to spend a lot of money to go see him in November 23rd. Did I miss that? Yeah, last
Yeah, it
weekend.
was,
Yeah.
yeah.
And he had canceled it due to some health issues.
Mhm.
So take Youngblood, take a rest, take a break, and come back in May so that you could be all great. One thing you always have in your purse.
A Tide stick.
I love that. Hey, Tide, we'd love to have you as a sponsor.
It goes everywhere with me. They're fantastic.
And I'd love for them to be a sponsor. Sunrise or sunset?
A sunset.
Okay. What is something small that instantly makes your day better?
A hug from Hope. It's the
Mm,
best.
mm. And if you, the question I ask everybody, if you had a dinner and you invited two people, dead or alive, who would your guests be?
Oh gosh.
And whoever it is the dead one is coming right back in this
Mhm.
podcast again on your face.
Yeah. I would love to have a conversation with my mom, because a lot of my life that has been crazy has happened since she died. So I would love to just have a conversation with her as my
Me
dead
too.
person. Yeah, it just would, I would be curious to see what she thinks. Um,
To go back deep again, if Todd were in front of you right now, what would be the one question you would ask him?
I don't know if I would ask him a question. Um, for some reason, the answer that came to my mind when you asked that is I would want him to know that I forgive him. And I genuinely have forgiven him for everything.
Wow.
And that is just, and maybe if he forgives me, like, I don't know, he was really mad at me that night. So I guess if I had to ask a question, do you forgive me?
Wow. Mm. Courtney, you are an inspiration.
Yeah, thank you.
Stay you, stay true to who you are, and keep doing what you're doing because it is goodness and it is helping people, I am sure of. And friends, if you are watching, we will have all the links for Courtney's book that will be coming out. When's the goal to have the book out?
Yeah, so the book will be available April 1st for retail sale. And it probably will be on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and then through maybe local bookstores and stuff like that. But April 1st is the target date.
Excellent. And your mother is definitely shining on you right now. My gosh. What's the website?
Yeah, the website is starryishope.org.
And we will put it right up there so people can link right to it. And on this Giving Tuesday, folks, why don't we start Courtney off with a donation so that she can get these books in the hands that it will do great things for.
Mhm.
Courtney, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
joining us. Tell Hope we said hello,
Will
and
do.
thank you so much. Have a
Thank you,
great day.
Molly. You
Thank
too.
you. All right. Bye
Bye.
bye.